Hi Fit and Well crew, I hope you're having a good week and that you enjoyed Labor Day. We're going to be reviewing weight management basics today, but before I start, I just want to make sure that you understand what you need to do this week. We are on week 5 and this week you're going to work on chapter 4 quiz. You also have a lab due and you're going to read another chapter that can be kind of dense, so just give yourself some time. So the PowerPoint I'm going to be talking about now is on Moodle, and it's something that you can use as I'm going through it. And I'm also going to be giving you some resources outside of this that could be really, really helpful in terms of nutrition. You'll notice your textbook takes actually 3 whole chapters to cover nutrition, weight management, body composition. So clearly this is a big piece of your health, and it's something that you should really try to dive into and learn more about. I wanted to let you know some important things in your chapter 3 that can be really helpful in everyday life. So on page 83 of your textbook, there's a diagram of how to set up a healthy plate. So if you're someone that's trying to figure out how much protein you need, how many vegetables you should be eating, this is a good thing to check out. Also, it's good to understand what nutrients and minerals, like what they're actually doing for you, why you need them, and what happens if you don't have them. So on page 96 in your textbook, there's actually a chart that you can use. You can just go through, and if you're wondering like, why do I need B vitamins, or what's important about iron, you can actually go through and check that out. Lastly, on page 101, there's very detailed step-by-step directions on how to read a food label. I think this is a life skill that everyone should have, and we're going to review it again later. There's some discussion in your chapter that you're reading this week about being obese versus overweight. So when you're obese, it means that your body fat percentage is 30% greater than the recommended body weight. And when you hit that category, generally that's when you're starting to get more concerned about bigger health issues. And there's a few ways to figure out whether you're at a normal healthy weight, you're overweight, or you're obese. And so the most common one is either just through a scale. Sometimes it will tell you your body mass index, and that has to do with electrical currents in your body. The other one is the pinch test. So when you're maybe training in a gym, you might have seen this before, but they'll pinch and check and see how much extra body fat you have. This is kind of like the old school way of doing it. But some of the more scientific ways of doing this, and this is mentioned in your chapter, there's what's called a DEXA scan, which is essentially like an x-ray of your body, and it shows areas where you have body fat. So that one's kind of neat because you can actually see the specific spots where you have the most body fat. Generally with females, it's the lower half, and generally with males, it's the stomach. Another thing you can use is a bod pod. Or there's a water displacement test where you actually get dunked in water and you have to do all these steps to figure out how much you float in the water. It's kind of neat. If you're interested in exercise science, these are things that exercise scientists do. Let's get to the scary stuff. Here's some of the facts that you need to know to understand what's going on in our world. So approximately 35% of the adult population in industrialized nations, including America, are considered obese. And in Burke County in North Carolina, 32.5% are considered obese. And also in our area, about 10% of the population has diabetes. One of the leading causes of death is heart disease. It's almost always number 1 or in the top part of reasons why people die. It's preventable. It's something that if you exercise and don't have excessive body fat and you're eating right, it's something that's very, very preventable. So it's good to know that some of the leading causes of death are things that are totally preventable by taking care of your health. Big picture concepts. So here's some things just to understand before we get into the nitty-gritty details of what to actually do. Weight and obesity and body composition can be very, very personal. It has to do with your genetics, it has to do with your metabolism, your hormones, your gender, your psychological state. It also has to do with cultural beliefs, behavioral habits, and socioeconomic factors like whether you live in poverty, whether you live in a rural area, whether you live in a major city, whether you live somewhere with pollution. All of these things are at play when it comes to weight management. So it's good to understand, be kind, be open-minded, and just know that this is something that's a very complex thing, which is probably why a lot of us haven't figured it out. Okay, here's big picture concept number 2. Fad diets are generally never a good idea, and they are not a long-term solution to a healthy, lifelong weight management. So a few that are really popular right now are intermittent fasting, keto. There's something that's always kind of cycling through the pictures in your textbook have Atkins diets, which essentially was no carbs, the cookie diet. So just be aware of these things. Generally, it's not the best idea. Big picture concept number 3, be realistic. So we talked about goal setting in the past, and being realistic and setting smart weight management goals is really important. You don't want to go out there and say, I'm going to lose 100 pounds in a week, because that's just not going to happen. So when you're realistic, you're more likely to follow through, and you're more likely to build habits that you use for the rest of your life. The other thing to notice is that we have a lot of social media in our world right now, and a lot of things going on social media are just not realistic. So I encourage you to think smart about when you're taking in social media ads, like viewing professional athletes, things like that. You have to understand what's actually realistic in the real world. Finally, one of the biggest picture concepts that I will try to get you to learn in this class is that you want to think long term. You want to think about your whole entire life. So when students are in class with me, one of the things I like to ask them, many times actually, is what is something that you want to be able to do when you're 40 years old, when you're 60 years old, and when you're 90 years old? And some of the answers I get are, I want to be able to be strong in my job, or I want to be able to take care of kids. I want to be able to drive when I'm 80 or mow my lawn. I want to be able to enjoy retirement and travel and feel comfortable, traveling to exotic places when I'm 60 years old. All of those things require you to take care of yourself nutritionally, physically, and mentally your whole life. So think long term, people. There are absolutely reasons why changing your food habits and your nutritional beliefs can be complicated and challenging. So some of the things that come up often in this class and just in general is, it costs a lot of money, I don't have time, I don't like the way vegetables taste, my family doesn't eat healthy, so I don't eat healthy, I don't like cooking. A lot of people, this is so common, I don't know what to pick. These are real barriers of change, and there's ways to conquer that. So now I'm going to get into some of the more detailed options that you can take to learn more about nutrition. As a general rule, you want to choose unprocessed foods over processed foods. So unprocessed foods is going to be real things like fruit and vegetables and everything generally in the produce aisle, and it's generally stuff that you have to cook yourself and organize a meal. And processed foods is more like cereals and chips and sodas. You want to stick more to the unprocessed foods. They have more fiber, they have more minerals, your body processes them better, and you can control what you're taking in. So you're getting meals that fuel you and give you energy for things you care about. One really amazing free resource that you can use is choosemyplate.gov. And if you're interested in finding out more information about fruits, vegetables, grains, how to piece it all together, recipes, activities you can try, things you can do with your family or your partner, this website is great. I actually have students in my class take quizzes on each of the food groups, and it gives you interesting facts after you answer each question. So if you're looking for a way to stay engaged and learn more, I recommend taking the quizzes. You'll find those by either searching myplate.gov quizzes or going to the resources tab and clicking on quizzes. Another thing to know in terms of nutrition is that you might need to ask for help and you might need to do your research. because most people, in general, most people don't just know how to eat healthy. It takes practice, it takes time, it takes help from professionals. So one good thing to know is many grocery stores, including Ingles, which we have in town, have a registered dietitian working for them, and they can answer questions to help you. So in class, we actually emailed Leah, the registered dietitian at Ingles. Her email address is on the Ingles website, and we asked her a question, what is folate? And she got back to me within a day and gave me an answer. It's actually it's a B vitamin, and it's often found in leafy greens, and it helps prevent an array of diseases. So if you have a question like that, a lot of grocery stores have a dietitian. Food Lion does, Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, what else have we got in town? Walmart, I believe, has a dietitian. You just have to do some research and really look through the web pages where they're talking about wellness, recipes. It's on there. I'll show you what the Ingles one looks like. All right, so I'm on the Ingles homepage. I just scrolled all the way down, and there's a huge box that says, dietitian, send Leah a question. So when you click on that link, it directly connects you to her email, and she gets back to you. So if you're trying to learn more, just do it. Ask questions. For your lab this week, you're going to be answering a few questions about what you want to fuel your body for. And another part of that is keeping track of what you're eating, how much you're eating, what nutrients and minerals you're getting. And I don't grade that, and you're not required to do it, but I wanted to share some information with you. Doing this is a good way of understanding your habits and just learning long-term what you need in your diet to make you feel good and healthy and energized. So there's an app called MyFitnessPal where you can track your stuff, and I really like this one because it also tracks your nutrients, and you can see what percentage you're hitting each day. You don't want to get too caught up in counting calories. That can go down the wormhole of not being a good thing. So try and just really stick with fueling your body and figuring out the habits that make that happen. All right. Understanding how to read a nutrition label is so key. It's very important in understanding the serving size you're getting, how much sugar you're having, how many calories and fat and things you're having. And once you get good at it, you can quickly pick out the things that are important to you. So one way to do that, actually, if you go online to most grocery stores, you can look up the food products and they'll give you the nutritional facts and information. And if you're someone who shops online and drives by and picks up, you can read that before you put it in your cart, which I think is really cool. Another thing to think about when you're looking at food nutrition labels, this is a label for a Dunkin' Donuts iced coffee. So the first thing on here, it's the serving size per container. So this one is a whole bottle. So understanding that the serving is a whole bottle is important. Also, the calories is generally in the top part. It's the bigger number. Generally, it's bold. And then usually the next thing that comes up is the fat. And as you read in the past chapter, saturated fat is generally the one you don't want. Also, it's good to understand how much protein you're getting in food, because protein is something that helps fill you up and it's an important part of your diet. And then below protein is vitamins, minerals, and you can see what percentage of that you're getting each day. A huge one that people need to start looking out for is sugar. So in this iced coffee, there are 39 grams of sugar. So 39 grams translated to teaspoons is about 9.75 teaspoons for this one iced coffee. Men per day should have about 9 teaspoons, and women per day should have about 6. And honestly, that really has to do more with body weight. So you could find, there's some calculations you can do based on your body weight and not gender, and you can figure out how much sugar you should have per day. But just one iced coffee, the sugar in this is what you should be having in your whole day in a drink. This type of sugar too is added sugar. It's not natural sugar. Natural sugar is something like that's already in a piece of fruit. All right, here's another one. This is a tea drink, 1 serving size. The container is Doesn't say how many. Oh, 18.5 fluid ounces, so about the size of a water bottle. And this one has almost 5 teaspoons of sugar. So again, you're almost at your daily intake in this one drink. All right, here's another example. This is orange juice. And so the serving size is an 8 fluid ounce. So that's about a small glass, about this big. And it does have a lot of sugar. It's a 27 grams of sugar. But you'll see in this one, it's kind of neat. You're getting 120% of your vitamin C for the day. So there's other things to look at. Don't worry too much about sugar all the time, but it's good to know how much is in each thing. Here's a wild one. This is a Pepsi. It is 20 fluid ounces. So it's like one of these water bottles filled with Pepsi. This has 13 teaspoons of sugar in it. So almost double of what you should be having per day in one drink. All right. Another simple and straightforward tip when you're figuring out nutrition and weight management for the course of your life, you have to plan ahead. You have to be someone that manages their time so that they can eat healthy meals throughout the day. One of the biggest things with eating healthy has to do with time. You don't have enough time, or just, planning out your meals, thinking ahead to having the right foods on hand and the good combination of foods, good amount of protein, good vegetables. Having that all ready and on hand most of your days is a very tricky thing, which is why people need to consciously plan it out. Also, budget. Budget is huge. You don't want to spend all your money on food all the time, and it can get very expensive quickly. So thinking ahead also will help you with your budget. And I'm going to show you something that you can use to figure that out. Alrighty, I included the link for this site on your PowerPoint, but if you search on Google Iowa State Food Calculator, this screen will come up. And it's actually a calculator where you can put in your age, how many people are in your household, and how often you eat out. And it will give you a general budget of what you can spend per week and hopefully be getting the right amount of healthy foods. And this is based on calculations that they've done and research they've done on buying healthy dinners and foods. So it's a good tool to use. And if you're cooking for a family, if you're someone that's cooking for kids or your partner, it's good to understand how much more you have to budget when you're adding in more people. All right, so that's a really quick rundown of the weight management PowerPoint and some of the things that have been covered in the chapters you've been reading. If you have any questions, please reach out. I'm here to help you. I'm supposed to be supporting you, so if you need anything, I'm here to help. I want you to think about a few things moving forward. Just getting started with this stuff is sometimes challenging because it just feels like a lot of information and sometimes heavy information. So if you take one baby step today, I recommend these 2 things. So the first one would be either write down a food that you want to try to cook and learn more about. So I had students write sweet potato, asparagus, leafy greens, avocado. Pick one food this week and try and figure it out and try and make some healthy recipe with that food and learn about why it's good for you. Another option is to take one thing I showed you, whether it's the Walmart grocery thing, the budget calculator, just practicing reading nutritional labels, the MyFitnessPal app. Pick one of those things and just try it out. Try it out this week and see what starts happening in your brain and what you're starting to think about in terms of nutrition. All right, so good luck. And again, if you have questions, let me know. I also wanted to add that you guys are doing great with your Flipgrid videos. It's a joy to watch you and feel connected in some way, even during all of this. And your tips on hydration were great. It seems like a lot of you are doing pretty well with your classes too, so that's awesome. One thing I wanted to add about water, it's good to understand that it can be very personal. Generally, how much water you need to drink is based on your weight, whether or not you're exercising, whether or not you're working outside, your diet. There's a lot of things that go into it. So the old rule is 8 cups a day, But know that really it has to do with specifically you and what you're doing.